Some breaking news that we are waking up to this morning on Monday, August 24th, concerning that mega merger between Paramount Skydance and Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, today was supposed to be a meeting to discuss possible settlement as a result of the powerful lawsuit that was brought by California Attorney General Rob Bonta and other state attorneys general to block this merger. This lawsuit was filed in July. It put that merger on hold. As we know, a federal judge has actually set a trial to take place in March of 2027. This is a $111 billion merger. And the reason why people are so up in arms about it is understandable. As the attorneys general assert in their lawsuit, the merger between Paramount and Warner Brothers would put two major movie studios, multiple streaming services, and CNN and CBS News under one roof. And it would be controlled by the Ellisons. Specifically, at this point, David Ellison, who is one of the billionaire buddies of convicted felon Donald Trump. And look, I don't have to tell you, we've already seen what has happened at CBS News when Ellison installed Bari Weiss to be the head of that place. We've seen what happened to 60 Minutes. We've seen what's happened to CBS Evening News. I mean, it's not pretty. And so there is a very understandable concern about this being anti-competition, this huge mega merger that would happen. So, because of this lawsuit, a couple of things. One, Attorney General Rob Bonta and other stakeholders were supposed to sit down today with Ellison and other stakeholders from Paramount to see if they could hammer out a deal. Now, as of Friday, now I'm going to read this to you because this is reporting as of Friday. As of Friday, Attorney General Bonta said this. This was Friday night. Generally, for all of my cases, I prefer to resolve disputes in the boardroom, not the courtroom. As I've also said, if the opposing party in litigation wants to meet in good faith to make a sincere effort to resolve the case, we'll meet. And as I have further said, any potential discussions about the Paramount-Warner Brothers merger will be unproductive absent robust structural remedies on the table that address our concerns. The proposed Warner Brothers Paramount merger, according to Attorney General Rob Bonta, will mean higher costs, less competition, lower wages, job cuts, and fewer movies and TV shows. This merger violates long-standing federal antitrust law, and we are committed to enforcing the law. Now, it's 12 state attorneys general who have sued. There's an independent lawsuit that was brought by the WGA, the Writers Guild of America. That lawsuit has been consolidated for purposes of being tried together in March of 2027. And the federal judge in that case stating, I'm not going to have an earlier trial date at this point. That's when you guys are going to go to trial. Now, in the federal rules of civil procedure, you are required in the course of litigation to sit down and go to a mediation. Now, this was going to be a separate thing. The meeting that was supposed to happen today until Bonta canceled it as a result of bad faith conduct on the part of Paramount, that was going to be a kind of good faith, or supposed to be good faith effort for them to see if they could work something out, or at least start to hammer out the beginning of a framework to be able to work something out. But the federal rules of civil procedure would require both sides to sit down and meet no matter what for purposes of a court-ordered mediation. And let's talk about that for a second. A magistrate judge would be sitting down at some point to be able to try to negotiate a settlement on behalf of the parties. At a hearing last week, the presiding federal court judge, Araceli Martinez-Orguin, said the parties had to identify two prospective people to serve for purposes of this. Now, look. Paramount has been trying to fend off the continued blocking of this mega merger by making a promise that it would produce at least 30 films a year for the next 3 years and to keep them exclusively available for viewing in theaters for at least 45 days. But Rob Bonta has said historically that's very hard to enforce. So promises made, promises broken and never kept, it's hard to sue to enforce that, number one. And number two, we know that there have been threats by Paramount to actually pull its entire base of operations out of Hollywood, out of California, and to move them to a, quote, friendlier state. But let's get into the specifics of why Rob Bonta canceled this settlement meeting that was supposed to happen today. According to his office, late last night, Paramount was accused of acting in bad faith. Quote, not only did Paramount leak the alleged substance of settlement discussions, but they misrepresented these discussions, demonstrating a lack of good faith. As soon as Paramount stops playing games and engages sincerely, my office is happy to meet again. Oof. So what was leaked? Well, you're not supposed to leak or disclose settlement communications. There is a presumption they are to remain confidential. Why? Because A, that's the law and the rule, and B, why would anybody want to have good faith settlement negotiations and conversations if they knew that they were going to be exposed? Because you may make admissions during the course of your settlement conversations of potential weaknesses. A lot of it is posturing, yes. A lot of it is grandstanding, yes. But you may say, look, I admit that maybe this is an issue, but this is where, blah, blah, blah. The bottom line is this. Nobody would engage in good faith in trying to reach a settlement if they thought everything was going to be exposed. And again, the law protects it, the rules protect it. You're not supposed to disclose it. So what is Rob Bonta talking about? Well, check this out. Apparently, there were communications between the attorneys general that are the plaintiffs in this lawsuit, their outside counsel, Milbank, and Paramount on August 21st. Now, that was just last week, right? That was just last week, Friday. Those communications disclosed. And that is a problem because Paramount is leaking this. It wasn't the attorneys general and it wasn't their counsel. According to Rob Bonta, it was Paramount. Now, what was leaked? Well, Paramount is sitting there stating that Rob Bonta is trying to ask for things like David Ellison not having day-to-day oversight or control of Warner Brothers, which Ellison would never agree to do. Quote, Ellison needs those cable channels. That's still where some of the money is. And it is no secret that Rob Bonta's office apparently has asked that Paramount sell off several of Warner Brothers' cable channels. So it's like all of this that is maybe going back and forth in terms of possible settlement negotiations is all being leaked according to Rob Bonta. And here's the thing. Paramount was forced to be able to make some minor concessions in order to get regulatory approval outside of the United States in the United Kingdom. We've covered that here. But this is the big one, right? Because for every time that they're not able to close, this is costing Paramount a whole lot of money. And that's important because this is costing Paramount a shit pot of money while this case doesn't settle. Now, in the meantime, David Ellison, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, has been threatening to leave the state of California, to take the company of Paramount out of California by October 1st if there is no progress made to resolving this lawsuit that's been brought by Bonta and other AGs. Now, this is according to the New York Times back on August 11th. So now this is even a couple of weeks ago. Ellison is sitting there thinking that he can intimidate and coerce Bonta into settling on unfavorable terms for the people. Because remember, this lawsuit isn't for Rob Bonta. He's not representing a private client. He represents the people of the state of California, as do these other attorneys general. They're representing the people of those states. And ultimately, we'll all benefit if there is a good deal made with structural remedies baked into the deal that will protect us from the not good side of this mega merger. So Bonta said back on August 11 with this threat, these leaked threats, right, to move the company out of California, quote, it's an attempt to blackmail regulators who are daring to enforce the law. Because here's the thing. Starting in October, why October, you may ask, Katie? Because starting in October, Warner Brothers will owe their shareholders, Paramount will owe the Warner Brothers shareholders $650 million each quarter until the deal closes. And remember, this thing's not going to trial until March of 2027. So you've got at least Q4 2026, Q1 2027, and until this thing is done, that's a lot of money, right? So that's what, 1.3 billion? And so because of that, That's part of the reason why there's been this idea that Ellison's threatening to move Paramount out of California. And here's what somebody said. I thought this was really interesting. At least one emerging entertainment hub, Tennessee, has made direct overtures to Ellison. In a letter, Stuart McWhorter, the head of the state's Economic and Community Development Agency, wrote to Ellison, encouraging him to consider Tennessee and join other blue state companies in planting roots in a more business-friendly conservative state. Oracle, for example, owned by Ellison's father, has been expanding its presence in Nashville. But I want to sit on this for just a second. This is nothing against Nashville, nothing against Tennessee. Well, yeah, maybe something against Tennessee, or more appropriately, its Republican leaders. Think about what is happening here. You have overtures being made by red state Tennessee to come to a, quote, more conservative place. Come and bring your entertainment and media company here. You don't think that we're already dealing with the threat of having Ellison in his outsized influence on content? Again, we've already seen what happened at CBS, right? You don't think actually relocating to a state that you want to be in that's more conservative, you don't think that's also going to have an influence on what happens to content? You'd have to be a fool to think that that's not the case. And it's not a surprise, right? Because then you're going to say, well, thank you so much for letting us come to your state. And then you're trying to sit there and negotiate tax deals, benefits for the work that you're bringing to that state. But listen to this. In 2021, Walt Disney announced plans to relocate roughly 2,000 employees from LA to Orlando. Workers pushed back so much so, and a significant number quit rather than move, that Disney ultimately canceled their plans amidst that employee resistance. And of course, as you'll recall, that nasty, stupid Ron DeSantis war on Disney. I mean, the deadline is August 26th. What is that? 2 days from now for the parties to select a magistrate judge to do this mediation. So there will be a court-ordered mediation happening here. But I think it's interesting that Rob Bonta said, we're not doing this if Paramount doesn't come to the table in good faith. Bonta says, I will only accept structural remedies to resolve this lawsuit, which means you're going to have to sell off parts of this combined business. And Ellison says, I ain't going to do it. So, I mean, it kind of sounds like it's a standoff. But look, it was Bonta's choice to do this, and I'm glad. Because you can't bully people into submission. I think a lot of these billionaire oligarchs, these corporate oligarchs, think that you can just bully people and you can play this game of dropping things in the public, leaking settlement communications that are supposed to remain confidential, threatening to move your base of operations, even though it would really be a big middle finger fuck you to California, which, I'm sorry, this is really what I wanted to also emphasize to you. Check this out, because I think this kind of summarizes it really astutely. Joseph Singer, a veteran film financier and former studio executive, said about this threat of Ellison to move Paramount out of California. Many of the top Paramount executives I've spoken with are extremely unhappy with the idea. Their lives, their families, and their kids' lives and schools are in LA. Either the merger is good for California, as its supporters have insisted, or those same jobs are a chip to be moved out of state when the state's law enforcer declines to fold. A threat to relocate doesn't make sense and just hurts the very people he says he wants to protect. He being Ellison. Isn't that just so on point, right, people? If you think about it, if Ellison is claiming that this mega merger is so great and it's such a benefit and it's going to be such a boon to the people of California, you're now threatening to pull your company? You're now threatening to take it somewhere else? By the way, just if you do that, the lawsuit doesn't go away. The lawsuit is to block the merger in and of itself. There's a lot here, but it is breaking news. I wanted to make sure that we covered it here. And like and subscribe, share this so people understand what's going on. There is a lot at stake here about the defense of democracy. You cannot consolidate this amount of power and expect that it's not going to be abused. You also want to be able to understand here that from the very top, from these, A-level actors, actresses, down all the way to the people that are providing craft services, I like to say as an example, to the writers, to the people that are on the tech side of it, to the producers, to the hair and makeup artists, you name it. They all will have their jobs on the chopping block because of this merger. Consolidation is not going to benefit consumers either. This is a $111 billion deal. The debt load on this is freaking huge. Putting aside my concerns about foreign equity being pushed into this to finance this deal from places like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and others, I have a serious concern about the fact that where are you going to pass down the cost to have to carry this debt? You're going to fire people. You're going to limit production, especially kind of on the big blockbuster Hollywood side. And you're going to pass down the cost to me as a consumer. Your streaming services are going to get more expensive. Why? Because it's all been consolidated. All these streaming services are going to be coming together. And so that package is really not a package. It's going to be an access fee that's going to be exorbitant. And yeah, we can exercise our right not to do it, but why be forced to do that if you have people like Attorney General Bonta, Letitia James, and others that are saying, look, this is anti-competitive. It's going to hurt consumers. We don't do this. This is America. Be mad, be outraged, demand accountability, like Rob Bonta does. I'm off to rattle cages. Katie Fang here. We launched the Katie Fang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together.